On Sunday and Monday, most of you would have been bombarded with images and videos of the revival of sorts of the RIC, or Russia, India, China cooperation or friendship, when you saw three top leaders of these countries, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, President Vladimir Putin, and President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, of course, of Russia, and President Xi Jinping of China, meeting each other warmly, having private moments on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit held in Tianjin, the coastal Chinese city, on 31st August and 1st of September 2025. Now, this is seen as a anti-Western front by many people, and the bonhomie and the kind of camaraderie that these three leaders showed in their bilateral meetings with each other, and of course the common meeting of the SCO, and on the sidelines of the SCO summit during the photo opportunity during the summit of the SCO itself, has made the world sit up and take notice. Of course, this is coming in the backdrop of what President Donald Trump has done as far as the foreign relations are concerned. His trade and tariff war, as it were, on the world, has actually roiled and created turmoil in the international order. So, as they say these days, the old international order is over and the new one is yet to take shape. And therefore, we're in the middle of these two systems. The old one has crumbled, the new one is yet to come up, and the transition is happening. And this SCO meeting in China was one of the manifestations of that, although this summit would have been decided, or the summit meeting would have been decided much earlier than what has happened in the past 5 or 6 months. And yet, it sent a very powerful signal to the West, to the United States and its allies in Europe, of how the rest of the world, that is India, China and Russia, looks at the global affairs and the power politics that is happening right now. The great power relations is undergoing a major change. Till December, or even till February, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi went to the White House and had a very public meeting with President Trump, it seemed as if the United States-India relationship, described by one of the leaders in the US as the most consequential partnership in the 21st century, was looking as if it is going to rival the China and Russia partnership, which was also being seen as a very close and a very ironclad kind of a partnership or a friendship between the two former rivals. Now, why do I say former rivals, China and Russia? Let me take you back to 1971, 54 years ago. Almost to date, almost a month here and there, on 9th August 1971, India signed, for the first time in its independent history since 1947, India signed a treaty of peace, friendship and cooperation with what was then the Soviet Union, the forerunner of Russia today. The Soviet Union, or USSR as it used to be known, the United Soviet Socialist Republic, was the second pole of a two-pole kind of a two-alliance world that it was divided in. The West was led by the United States. It had its NATO, or North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and on the other side was the Soviet Union-led Warsaw Pact, which had most of the Soviet Union satellites or communist countries in Europe, Eastern Europe especially. And India, Egypt, Yugoslavia, all of these countries were seen as non-aligned, or non-aligned countries, a club of non-aligned countries. But in 1971, India went and broke that convention of not taking sides, not signing alliances, or not being in an alliance, not signing treaties of friendship and cooperation. In the month of August 1971, the circumstances were extraordinary. to say the least, because in 1970, East Pakistan, which was part of the Pakistan nation by that time from 1947 to 1970 or 71, was in turmoil. There was a crackdown by the Pakistani army on the people of East Pakistan, mainly Bengali speaking and of course mostly Muslim. There was a substantial Hindu population, of course, at that time in East Pakistan, and nearly 10 million refugees had streamed into the bordering states in India, Tripura, Assam, Meghalaya, and West Bengal. And it was creating a problem for a country like India, which was still poor. It was a burden. It was also creating a lot of tension between India and Pakistan, because Pakistan thought India was supporting the liberation movement in East Pakistan led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and United States was clearly and openly helping Pakistan with arms, with support, and India did not have a very clear-cut friendship treaty or a friendship assurance from any of the P5 or the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. So it needed some kind of an assurance, because it seemed at that point in time, after the crackdown by the Pakistani army in March 1971 on the Bengali intellectuals and the Bengali leadership of the Awami League, which is the main political party, the refugees started coming into India, and it seemed as if India will have to bear their burden forever. And of course, war clouds were hovering around. At the same time, United States was trying to open up to China. It was using Pakistan as a springboard. Pakistan's military dictator, General Yahya Khan, was being used to do an outreach to the Chinese leadership that time. Chairman Mao was the supreme leader of China. So all that was happening in that period. Again, a very happening period in 1971. And India needed some kind of an assurance. So a lot of to and fro, a lot of discussions between a foreign minister, that time external affairs minister, Swaran Singh, very patient man, Gromyko, his counterpart in the USSR, and Chairman Kosygin was the leader of the USSR or the Soviet Union. All of them were doing lots of discussions, lots of to and fro. P.N. Dhar, who was the chairman of the policy planning committee under the External Affairs Ministry and a confidant of Mrs. Indira Gandhi, was leading the Indian side in terms of drafting, in terms of what that treaty or the Treaty of Peace, Friendship and Cooperation should include. All that was happening. This is very little knowledge these days about, or at least awareness of about why India signed this treaty, broke its long-held convention. It will not take sides. Because China seemed to be helping Pakistan. United States was openly helping Pakistan with arms and ammunition. In fact, then National Security Advisor of the United States, Henry Kissinger, came to Delhi, and Mrs. Gandhi, Indira Gandhi, had gone to the White House. She got a distinct impression that both of them hated her. They wanted India to be down and out. They were helping Pakistan, which was on an upswing. And China, of course, was something that a country that looked at India also as a rival, long-term rival. So India was alone. And Soviet Union was still ambivalent. And therefore, I think P.N. Dhar, P.N. Haksar, Mrs. Gandhi's principal secretary, Swaran Singh, all of these people worked to get this peace and friendship and cooperation treaty off the ground. They drafted it and redrafted it, looked at all the details, minutest of details, the comma, the full stop, the crossing the T's and dotting the I's. All of that was done. And finally, on 9th August 1971, this so-called Treaty of Peace and Friendship between India and the Soviet Union was signed. What did it do? It gave a clear indication to the world that at least one permanent member of the UN Security Council was with India. Soviet Union, in fact, used its veto to prevent a proposal sent by Pakistan via China and United States to send observers along the India Eastern Pakistan or East Pakistan border, which is now the Bangladesh-India border, which would have meant complications as far as India was concerned. And of course, it also sent a signal to China, which was then, interestingly, for those of you who don't know, was a rival of the Soviet Union. Things come full circle. In 1971, United States and Soviet Union were on the opposing sides, admittedly so, they still are. But even China was a rival of Soviet Union, because although both were communist countries, both professed to adhering to the socialist principles, but they had an open and very bitter rivalry. In fact, they had fought a war or a small skirmish in 1969 along the Ussuri River, and there was no love lost between the United Soviet Socialist Republics, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, or Soviet Union as it was called, and China. And India was therefore caught in the middle in a way, but also used this rift between China and Soviet Union deftly to get this treaty going. It wasn't before the war was sort of thrust upon India, that was in December 1971. And finally, what happened was that India, of course, won the war, as all of you know. That's a separate topic of discussion. In 13 days, India decimated the East Pakistan, or the Pakistani army. The Shimla Agreement came into being in 1972, or it was discussed in 1972 between India and Pakistan directly. And of course, the world has come full circle. Like I said, the United States seems to be against India despite 25 years of friendship and cooperation. A lot of effort and sweat and blood has gone into building this relationship, which was at one time described, like I said, the most consequential relationship in the 21st century. But India, because the United States is right now very aggressive and very belligerent against India, especially the White House led by President Donald Trump, has been forced to look for alternatives elsewhere. So Russia is the first choice as far as India is concerned. China remains a competitor despite the current thaw that we are seeing. So that relationship, India-Russia or India-Soviet Union relationship, has stood the test of time. Apart from the 1971 Treaty of Peace, Cooperation and Friendship, in 2000, and mind you, President Putin was still the president in 2002, 25 years ago, there was a declaration of the India-Russia Strategic Partnership, which later was turned into a privileged and special partnership as far as India and Russia are concerned in 2010. But such is history that things come full circle. Right now, India, China and Russia seem to be in one camp against the United States, not so much against Europe, because Europe is also under pressure from the US. But that's how international affairs move. They don't remain static. The diplomacy gets you into different corners. For instance, last year in 2024, and this is my last point, it's an aside, not so much about the 1971 treaty between India and the Soviet Union, but how geopolitics moves. When India was, sort of extending its sympathy, then support, then open support to the East Pakistan agitators or Awami League supporters, which resulted in the creation of Bangladesh. In March 1971, before the crackdown came by the Pakistani army, which came on 26th of March, by the way, the leader of Awami League, later Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, was not very sure if India would support them fully. Were they committed, not committed, he was not sure. So he had asked for support from United States. And Pakistan's ambassador that time, the United States ambassador to Pakistan, Joseph Farland, who had traveled to Dhaka and met Mujib, had promised that he would get the Pakistani army withdrawn from the east part or the eastern wing of Pakistan if Mujib agreed when he became the leader of the separate East Pakistan, autonomous East Pakistan, or a separate country. If Mujib agreed to lease 7 islands or islands in Bay of Bengal for 7 years to the United States, again history comes full circle. You will recall that in 2024, when Sheikh Hasina was ousted as Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, by the way, is the daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. She ruled Bangladesh for nearly 15 years. And when she was ousted on 5th of August 2024 by a kind of combination of coup and popular resentment and popular uprising, she accused the United States of toppling her just because she refused to lease the Bay of Bengal island called Saint Martin to United States. How true it is, how false it is, we don't know, but that those islands, or that one island at least in Bay of Bengal called Saint Martin Island, came into play once again in the rivalry or in the kind of animosity between the United States and Bangladesh. India, of course, has given her shelter. She stays in India, which is not liked by many countries, including the United States and Bangladesh, of course. But that's an aside. And of course, history, like I said, has the tendency to come back to where it started. And this is exactly what has happened. In 1971, India and Soviet Union were close friends. They have once again, for the last 25 years, have been closest of partners and friends. And it seems that history may repeat itself, where United States becomes antagonistic towards India. Hopefully, their bureaucracies will work out a modus vivendi going forward. But at the moment, this is where things lie. So I wanted to sort of draw your attention to what happened in 1971 and link it to the current state of affairs as far as global power politics is concerned. I hope you like this format of the program. We try and bring you little known facts, I won't say unknown facts, little known facts, trivia, anecdotes, and sort of try and inform you of some of the history's mysteries which have happened in India, Indian context, or even elsewhere. For the time being, that's all I have. Keep watching this special program for our subscribers. But of course, we will bring more and more offerings to you as we go forward. For the time being, it's goodbye.